Good morning again, everybody. I'm going to go ahead. It's 10 o'clock. Time of convening our Wednesday, March 23rd, 2016 State Election Board meeting. So let me again welcome you to the making office of the Georgia Secretary of State this morning. And our first order of business is our invocation and pledge of allegiance. And Mr. Worley's going to lead us in that this morning. Mr. Worley.
Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us safely here today. Please watch over us as we return to our homes. Please give the members of this board the wisdom to judge the issues before us fairly today. Amen.
Amen. You'll stand.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For those of you that came in right when we were starting, if we do allow for 2 minutes of public comment on issues not related to the cases that we'll be calling today. First we have Mr. Rhines. If you will, I will just let you speak at that mic there and just give us your name and address for the record, please. Welcome.
My name is George Boston Rhines, 5004 Oak Drive, Valdosta, Georgia. And I'm with the Get To Free Press. And my 2 minutes, I just want to use it to highlight, because I can't get into detail within 2 minutes. But Mr. Secretary and all you important people that are dealing with voting rights here in the state of Georgia, I just want to say, and I want to be on record, that there are major problems throughout the state of Georgia that I have identified that the news media mainstream will not report. I have been reporting it, and you can see it on Boston G.B.R. YouTube channel. In Brooks County, Georgia, we have major problems in voting, as well as trying to remove black mayors across the state. I'm working about 16 cities, Mr. Secretary. Quitman, Meigs, Lumpkin, Warrington, Gordon, Davisboro, Homerville. In Homerville, we have a sitting elected city council person who has 2 home state exemptions. One in the state of Florida, one in Lowndes County, Georgia, and he's holding office in Homerville, Georgia. These are impediments to the voting rights process, and across the state, the people and places that I've gone to, people are asking a question. What is the Secretary of State and others doing to resolve these problems that seem to impact and suppress the black vote throughout the state of Georgia? Also, Camilla, Georgia. I may not be able to call them all, but there's approximately 16 cities. And I believe that myself, a retired military veteran, I had no idea that this would be going on in 2016 to suppress, give the appearance of suppressing and controlling the black votes. And then after they get elected, the black mayors are seen to be under attack throughout the state. Now, I can prove this through videos. I go to all these cities at meetings. It's been documented, well documented. And so I'm going to take my seat. I think my 2 minutes should be up. And I always like to abide by the law because I'm a law-abiding citizen. Thank you, my beautiful Secretary, and to all of you who represent voting process in the state of Georgia, the United States of America. We have veterans here, and I do believe that they should have a right to vote without the impediments and suppression. Thank you so much for this space, my beautiful brothers and sisters.
Thank you for being here this morning.
I think we should thank Mr. Rhines for his service to America.
Absolutely. We appreciate your service as well. All right, next we have Mr. Roscoe Allen, Jr.
My name is Roscoe Allen Jr. I think...
Mr. Allen, if you don't mind, would you just give us your address?
My address is, 765, physical address is 765 S.C. Berkshire Road, but I get my mail at P.O. Box 1906, Douglas, Georgia. Okay.
Thank you.
I do think the state need to put more heat on these supervisors and election board when it goes to vote. It's a lot of these stuff going on. And the reason why it's going on is because y'all not putting the heat where they did. See, like every year, when it comes to election, the same thing happened. leave them, the city, y'all don't do nothing about it. It's time to get and do something. If they don't do nothing, it's a big problem. In the state of Georgia, especially around rural town like where I live at, in areas, it is a big problem. So y'all need to put the heat where it be at. You won't have all this problem, believe me. It ain't about no friend or whoever in charge. It's about doing what they're supposed to do. If it's legal, they're doing it legal. It needs to be done right. It's a big problem in the state of Georgia. Believe me, down in my area, it's a serious problem. Every time election come up, it's always legal stuff going on with the election board. Supervisor, all of them. That's a fight. Because I subpoenaed people in election that live in 20 miles out of the town. That's right, I did, myself. 15 miles out of the town. Don't even live in the city there. You know, it's a big problem. I'm telling you now. Y'all need to put the heat where it be. I don't care who it is. That's what y'all supposed to do. Am I right? Okay, that's all I got to say.
Thank you for being here this morning. And our last speaker during public comment, Reverend Larry O'Hara. Welcome, Reverend.
My name is Reverend Larry O'Hara. I reside at 1326 Roosevelt Street, Waycross, Georgia. I want to talk about Homerville, Georgia as well, but not just Homerville. I want to talk about all the little towns where the big problems are. Where you may say where Atlanta, Augusta, Columbus, that's where the city and that's where the most populated. But where the most populated is not where the problem is. The problem is little towns like Waycross, Homerville, Douglas, towns like that. The reason I'm talking about Homerville so much because I called the Secretary of State office several times myself. I've been calling for the last 10 years for voting fraud. Places like Willie Coochie and Homerville. Homerville is so bad there that we caught this gentleman who reside in Florida, also reside in Georgia, but holding an office in a town that he don't have a domicile in. I called the Secretary of State office 3 months when we found out what he was doing and nothing was done about it. However, nothing was done about it. He went on and we went to their office, we talked to them, gave them the information that could not be denied, and they still allowed this man to run for office. And he was elected. Now that wouldn't happen in Atlanta. If I had went to a city commissioner meeting in Atlanta, they would have stopped it right then. But this is little Georgia, little town, the town that nobody pays attention to. Mr. Secretary, what I'm asking is that you would pay more attention to the little towns, not so much the big towns. I believe that a lot of your problems with society. That's all I have to comment.
Thank you for being here, Reverend. Okay, anyone else? That was all the cards I had. Let me just address just a couple of things, just for those of you that don't know maybe some of the processes. First of all, if there's any voter suppression or anything like that going on, I hope that anybody in this room or anyone else that even knows about this discussion would contact our office immediately. I can assure you that we'll open an investigation wherever that may be, big town or small town, as we have done in the past. Also, as you know, in every election cycle, every single complaint that the Secretary of State's office receives, and you can imagine with small town and big town politics that go on during the election cycle, and certainly in a presidential year, it's heightened as well. But we take every single complaint very seriously. We open an investigation or look into every one of those matters and one of those before the state election board. So if there's those type things going on during the election, I hope that you would contact our office. We've got a website, a Stop Voter Fraud website where you can email us about that. We've got an 1-800 number that you can contact. And then lastly, I just wanted to address candidate challenges. There may be a little bit of confusion on that. A lot of the local races, the Secretary of State's office does not actually have the jurisdiction on candidate challenges. That needs to be done by a local elector, and the county elections board would be responsible for a lot of the local races. Now, we do have jurisdiction on certainly the state legislative seats and things of anybody has any questions about that, when we break, if you'll just let us know, we'll be glad to follow up with you and try to give you as much direction as we can on how that process works.
Welcome to Supreme Court Cases, Precedent Cases, Part 3. We're not going to look at a case this time that is still precedent in our country, but we are going to look at one that was very important. Dred Scott v. Sanford, decided in 1857, was when Dred Scott brought suit against his master, who moved him into free territory as a slave. He took it all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled that people of African ancestry are not considered citizens in our Constitution. Therefore, he has no right to bring this case to the Supreme Court. This would ultimately be overturned in 1868 with the passage of the 14th Amendment, which provided equal protection under the law for all people of the United States.
Nearly 250 years after Africans were first landed on America's shores, the Supreme Court of the United States would proclaim that blacks, by virtue of their race, were not persons before the law. In 1857, in a landmark decision, the Supreme Court ruled in the Dred Scott case that Congress had no authority to limit the spread of slavery to any territory. The Chief Justice's words stunned African Americans.
Roger B. Tawney, a Southerner, reads a decision that says that Dred Scott, as a black person, and black people generally, had never been, were not then, could never be citizens of the United States, and as such have no rights which white men are bound to respect.
Rhymes, and I have just been informed by the sheriff deputy that is behind me to my right. And I was informed that our trespass warrant has been issued against me here in Valdosta and Lowndes County, Georgia, not to enter any area of Lowndes County High School property. This came as a complete shock to me, based upon what I just been told by this deputy, that I could have been arrested at any time. I was out there on property a few days ago, putting up a podium, walking on the property, not knowing that a warrant had been issued or banning me from Lowndes County High School here in the state of Georgia and in the United States of America. I have never violated any law here in Valdosta and Lowndes County that is recorded in record that I am aware of. And so I called the Justice League, Bobby Worthy, to inform him of what has happened. This is a continuous practice. This is about the 4th time that I've had problem with law enforcement. The Lowndes County Sheriff's Department under Sheriff Prime. We must make documentation that I, George Boston Rhymes, have violated no law in Lowndes County. Yet I have been issued a warrant not to go on Lowndes County tax-paying property, wherein there was a public meeting this morning, I was told, that there was a Board of Education meeting on this area. The old field house, in the old field house. So I believe there's a great possibility that my constitutional rights have been denied. Again, I did not violate any law, yet they say that a warrant have been issued banning me from any area of Lowndes County High School. If I had a relative, which I do have some people that graduate today, I can't even go to the graduation to Little Terry because I have been banned from the school by a warrant that I knew absolutely nothing about. Thank God I didn't go to this graduation because I would have been arrested according to this deputy right here. Once again, I am George Boston Rhymes, and I do hope that C.B. King, Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, the Department of Justice, Eric Holder, and others will understand what the people here in South Georgia are going through while they ignore us. Why?
2 weeks ago, and he's not allowed to be on the property by order of West Taylor. Okay. No, you know me, man. I'm about, but I'll just back question. You go in this area, and you'll get arrested, okay? Okay, what can I do? You either can stay right here. Okay, they got a public meeting down here, so you're telling me I can't go to the public meeting? I do not know anything. I got you, but there's a public meeting. All I'm saying is, I'm not going. I understand that, but what I'm saying is that there's a public meeting down here, so you all telling me that I cannot go to a public meeting, and I haven't violated no law. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna do like you say, but you have a criminal trespass warning for the area of Lowndes High School. Okay. Everybody, all of us do. No, I do. As far as I know, it's just. Is that right? As far as I know. Okay, I don't want to hold up traffic. So what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do, bro? Go back out this way. Okay, man, it's gonna be interesting in court.
I'm a minister at the First Antioch Missionary Baptist Church, and my grandchildren attend school out there. Yes, sir. And there were some things that I was kind of concerned about, because I had asked a gentleman by the name of George Boston Ryan to come in and video my granddaughter's graduation, and he was stopped and said he wasn't allowed to come on the premises, and we were trying to find out what had he done that he couldn't come out there.
He was stopped by who?
By the sheriff department. He said that he was giving orders by you guys that he wasn't allowed on the premises.
Okay. I think that may be something you'd have to take up with the sheriff's department.
Okay. So you guys, it's okay if he come out to the premises if something come up?
No, sir. What I'm saying is I believe that there was, and I don't know what they called it, some sort of order based on something that happened in the past, that I believe that there's something in place. And again, I think either he would need to discuss that with you, or possibly the sheriff's department.
Oh, okay.
So I do believe there's something in place. I don't want to tell you something that's not right. Right. But I do believe that is accurate.
Right. Well, all right. Well, I tell you what, can you set an appointed time that I can come in and sit down with you?
Yes, sir. I would be glad to.
What about tomorrow sometime? What would be a good time?
I'm not going to be here tomorrow. Hold on just a minute. Let me turn this calendar around.
All right.
Can you see your calendar?
No, I'm not at the present time.
Okay. All right. Well, let me ask you this. Is there a particular day of the week that's better for you?
What about today? What about Friday morning?
Well, we're closed the rest of this week. That's what I was calling.
Okay.
This is part of the time where...
Well, what about Monday of next week?
All right. Let me open this thing up. Monday is June the 3rd.
Yes, sir.
I've got on Monday and Tuesday of next week, I'm meeting with we have 12 schools. I'm meeting with all of our principals on Monday and Tuesday.
Okay.
I've already got all of them scheduled.
Well, I'm scheduled to go to Atlanta. I got to be in Atlanta on Wednesday and the rest of that week, so I can't make that one.
All right, well, hold on just a minute. I'm just flipping over the next week, which is Monday the 10th.
Okay.
I've got a principals meeting that day. Hold on, we'll get us a day. Hold on just a minute. Let me turn this thing over. That Thursday morning, which is the 13th, and I know you may not know off the top of your head, but that may be a possibility we could shoot for.
Okay. Well, you busy the rest of the day?
Is that on the 13th, on that Thursday?
Well, yeah, but what about today?
I've got somebody scheduled at 3, and then somebody after that.
All right, well, we'll just make it for that time then, and we'll see what we can do, and I'll give you a call back, we'll get back in touch.
All right, so you want to set a time on that morning, or you want to just wait and call me back? Whatever works for you.
I'll just call you back.
Okay, all right, that'll be fine.
Lions can't come on the school campus?
I think there is something in place through the sheriff's department.
Okay.
I do think there is, but
All right.
I prefer that he who talks to you about that or the sheriff's department. I don't want to tell you something's not right.
Okay, all right. Well, that'll work then. All right.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Now here I am, a retired military veteran with over 20 years in the United States Armed Forces, fighting for the rights of foreigners, only to come home to be restricted from going to a graduation here in Lowndes County, and I'm mad as hell about it. I could have died in Vietnam. I could have died in Kuwait and other places. And so they just happen to be passing by. And I just want everybody to know, this is serious. It's not about just Kendrick Johnson no more. It's about all of these people in South Austin, Lowndes County that have been treated like this. And the Justice Department, the governor of the state of Georgia, the president of the United States, the Congress, the Senate, we need help down here. What are y'all waiting on? Where is Jesse Jackson? Where is Al Sharpton? We need help down here. Where Congress Maxine Waters, I'm appealing unto the world to come to Valdosta, Georgia. What's wrong with y'all? Don't y'all know we catching hell down here?
Black people generally had never been, were not then, could never be citizens of the United States, and as such have no rights which white men are bound to respect. As such have no rights which white men are bound to respect. As such have no rights which white men are bound to respect. As such have no rights which white men are bound to respect. Black people generally had never been, were not then, could never be citizens of the United States, and as such have no rights which white men are bound to respect. As such have no rights which white men are bound to respect. As such have no rights which white men are bound to respect. As such have no rights which white men are bound to respect.
Northerners were furious. Wherever our flag floats, protested one newspaper editor, it is the flag of slavery. When abolitionists sought ways to circumvent the Dred Scott ruling, slaveholders pressed for a federal slave law.
This is astounding. By the late 1850s, the Southerners are demanding that the federal government pass a slave code for all the territories that it acquired in the West. And obviously, Northerners aren't about to accept this kind of thing.
The battle over slavery was crippling the political process. On a bright spring morning, Congressman Preston Brooks from South Carolina entered the Senate chamber and beat Senator Charles Sumner, the fiery abolitionist, into unconsciousness.
Violence is erupting in the halls of government, on the streets of Washington, involving our lawmakers. There are people who are coming to sessions of the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate armed. In fact, one letter says the only people who aren't coming with 2 guns are those who are coming with 2 guns and a knife. Black people generally had never been, were not then, could never be citizens of the United States, and as such have no rights which white men are bound to respect. As such have no rights which white men are bound to respect. As such have no rights which white men are bound to respect.
In 1857, a case that would turn the tide of American history came before the court. It was named after a Missouri slave, Dred Scott. It was to pull the court into the smoldering conflict between North and South. Dred Scott, who belonged to a U.S. Army officer, appealed to the court to declare him a free man. He had followed his master from the slave state of Missouri to the free state of Illinois and the Wisconsin Territory and back again. When his master died, Scott claimed he was no longer a slave since he had lived on free soil. Chief Justice Roger Taney presided over what has been called the worst decision ever made by the Supreme Court. The justices sent Dred Scott back into slavery. The ruling cemented the Southern conviction that slaves were property, not people, and hastened the onset of the Civil War. Many citizens, including Abraham Lincoln, who would soon be elected president, vehemently disagreed with the decision, and the court plummeted in public prestige. Meanwhile, the Capitol was expanding. In 1860, the court moved one story above to the larger old Senate chamber on the first floor of the Capitol. Although this chamber was larger, the justices still had no office space of their own. They would meet here in these hand-me-down quarters for another 75 years. It would take an ex-president who would join the justices on the bench to finally win the court their own domain. It was just one of the big changes that lie ahead. Changes that would force the court to decide if it could or would reverse its opinion.
Monuments to Freedom will continue here on the History Channel.
I'm a minister at the First Antioch Missionary Baptist Church, and my grandchildren attend school out there. And there were some things that I was kind of concerned about, because I had asked a gentleman by the name of George Boston Ryan to come in and video my granddaughter's graduation, and he was stopped and said he wasn't allowed to come on the premises, and we was trying to find out what had he done that he couldn't come out there.
He was stopped by who?
By the sheriff's department. Said that he was given orders by you guys that he wasn't allowed on the premises.
Okay. I think that may be something you'd have to take up with the sheriff's department.
Okay. So you guys, it's okay if he come out to the premises if something come up?
No, sir. What I'm saying is I believe that there was, and I don't know what they called it, some sort of order based on something that happened in the past, that I believe that there's something in place. And again, I think either he would need to discuss that with you or possibly the sheriff's department.
Oh, okay.
No, so I do believe there's something in place. I don't want to tell you something that's not right. Right. But I do believe that is accurate.
Right. Well, all right. Well, I tell you what, can you set an appointed time that I can come in and sit down with you?
Yes, sir. I would be glad to.
What about tomorrow sometime? What would be a good time?
I'm not going to be here tomorrow. Hold on just a minute. Let me turn this calendar around.
All right.
Can you see your calendar?
No, I'm not at the present time.
Okay. All right. Well, let me ask you this. Is there a particular day of the week that's better for you?
What about today? What about Friday morning?
Well, we're closed the rest of this week. That's what I was going to
Okay.
This is part of the time where...
Well, what about Monday of next week?
All right. Let me open this thing up. Monday is June the 3rd.
Yes, sir.
I've got on Monday and Tuesday of next week, I'm meeting with each. We have 12 schools. I'm meeting with all of our principals on Monday and Tuesday.
Okay.
I've already got all of them scheduled.
Well, I'm scheduled to go to Atlanta. I got to be in Atlanta on Wednesday and the rest of that week, so I can't make that one.
All right. Well, hold on just a minute. I'm just flipping over the next week, which is Monday the 10th.
Okay.
I've got a principals meeting that day. Hold on, we'll get us today. Hold on just a minute. Let me turn this thing over. That Thursday morning, which is the 13th, and I know you may not know off the top of your head, but that may be a possibility we could shoot for.
Okay. Well, you busy the rest of the day?
Is that on the 13th on that Thursday?
Well, yeah, but what about today?
I've got somebody scheduled at 3 and then somebody after that.
All right, well, we just make it for that time then, and we'll see what we can do, and I'll give you a call back, or we'll get back in touch.
All right, so you want to set a time on that morning, or you want to just wait and call me back? Whatever works for you.
I'll just call you back.
Okay, all right, that'll be fine, and we'll get a time that'll work for both of us, and I'll be glad to.
All right, well, as of you know right now, there's nothing that you guys have done to say that George Lyons can't come on the school campus.
I think there is something in place through the sheriff's department.
Okay.
Yes, I do think there is, but
all right.
I prefer that he either talk to you about that or the sheriff's department. I don't want to tell you something that's not right.
Okay, all right. Well, that'll work then. All right.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Black people generally had never been, were not been, could never be citizens of the United States. States and as such have no rights which white men are bound to respect. Have no rights which white men are bound to respect. Black people generally had never been, were not then, could never be citizens of the United States, and as such have no rights which white men are bound to respect. As such have no rights which white men are bound to respect.